Today we're talking about friendships, and it was cool to be able to be around my friends, man. I have pockets of friends. You guys probably know what that means. Like I have my professional business current friends, we'll call it. Then I have like the friends that I've known for 27 years. I have my friend that's my wife. I have all these different amazing friends, right? But there are ways these all navigate and merge together. And so today I want to talk about those, because here's my true belief. I believe that the best and worst part of this world of people, man, it may be debatable, but I feel like the things that I love, people I love the most, like as people, right? And the things that I dislike come from people, unfortunately, or things people do to us. But I don't know if we ever navigate this properly, or we have any idea of the best way to look at what goes on. Because here's what I do know. When I am operating consistently in interaction with my best friends, the people around me, life is enjoyable to levels I cannot explain. Like it was really, the last few days was so amazing to get to sit in a room with people that just get you, and they talk to you in certain ways, and they tell you what you need to hear sometimes, not what you want to hear. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you get to expand and kind of create. And then also, if you want to go to a higher level in your life, you need people around you. You can't do it by yourself. Like we all think we're self-made and solo. I don't know a single person that has done something without any other human being involved in some capacity. So I want to anchor that as we get into this today, is like friendships. The reason this whole topic is chosen today is I think it's incredibly paramount to us finding some levels of success in life. So let's rock and roll with this today. First thing, I think one of the most important things when it comes to friendships, there's actually studies based around this, is that it's connection and time while connected. There are actually studies that show that the longer you spend of time with somebody, the closer you get bonded to them. And I think that there's this perception of if you're just around them, it's just all of a sudden, if I put a clock on at 60 hours, you're my best friend now. Like that would be weird. Like you can't put a clock on something like that. But do keep in mind, you need to be in proximity to certain people for a period of time. So if you're wondering, why don't I have great friendships? Well, ask yourself, are you investing in actually setting up time to hang out with people? People who are introverts, I found, like they don't like to go out and be around a lot of people and wonder, why don't I have friends? Well, because you want to only be around you. Like if you want to have great friendships, go and be around people. And what this may look like is some discomfort of setting a lunch date or a dinner date. Maybe you don't go, in a whole group, it's just you and that person, or you go hang out and do something you guys are both interested in, right? Common interest is a big thing with friendships, but you actually have to get to the point of spending time with people. It's a big, big piece there. So if you have an area on the top of your paper right now, say, I got to spend more time with people I want to be friends with. And it might be awkward at first. Maybe it's the soccer mom that you guys bring your kids to and from all the time. You have great conversations while you're at practice or games, but outside of games, you never talk. Well, be the weird person that says, hey, Susan, do you want to go for a coffee in the morning? Sure, let's go after we drop the kids off, right? Create the moments that create time to create good, deep, bonded friendships. And I promise you'd be surprised. A lot of people probably need that just as much as you do. So it's not that weird. They're like, oh, I'm so thankful you took me out to tea because I've really been wanting to have a crumpet with you. Tea and crumpets. I don't know anything about them, but I feel like I throw it in there. Anyways, I'm a tea guy. I don't drink coffee, by the way. Now, the next part of this is when you're with these people, what do? Now, a lot of people think if you just hang out, they're going to be friends, everything's great. But I have found that there are individuals who I have been able to spend a little bit less time with, but been very, very deeply connected to them. I used to go to this event years ago, and it would like happen like later in the nighttime, where we would all like to have like kind of a cool little closed down party. And they'd have these very specific areas set aside on the beaches or these cool areas where you could just talk. They facilitated discussion. Now, obviously, time's a big proponent, but what you do in that time matters. And here's what I was able to do. So I'll say collapse the time to create great friends. There are people that I had known for 3 days that were closer to me than people I'd known for 3 years. And here's why. When I sat with these people, I opened my heart and shared things that literally I'd never shared with anybody before. And what happens at a special moment is it's catharsis. It comes out of me. Like I feel a levity, right? And when you have other human beings that accept and embrace that, don't make fun of you, don't shut things down, they go, oh, I see you. I feel you. And on top of that, they now feel permission to share with you. And you get to that vulnerable, open, really raw spot. That's where connection takes place. Now, when I say we get to do that, like I'm not just saying you kind of have to do it. You have to do it if you want to bond a relationship. Think about the closest relationship you have. Maybe you're intimate, your wife or your husband, whatever it may be, or your partner in some capacity. Why are they so close to you? They just know a lot about you. They almost know everything. They know when you fart in the bed and they're like, oh, it stinks. They know what, like if your sink's dirty because you don't take the thing and brush your teeth in the little area. They know if like you leave the toilet seat up. They know things about you, right? They're intimately close to you. And so what happens is you have a different space. And so what you have to start thinking about is the reality of when you're creating those deep bonded connections, you have to be able to open up a little bit more you typically would, because if you don't open up, people don't get to know the heart of who you are. And when they get to know the heart of who you are, you start finding there's more of a connection there than people you've known for a lot of years. So if you can find that space to create those areas by actually opening up and sharing more than most human beings would, you find that you get to learn more about their heart. They learn about you and you feel that acceptance. Because friendships have got to be based on an acceptance space. Like the friends that I have, we have real conversations. We open up and talk. I've got friends that I've known since I was in second grade, like a core group of my friends from Jason, Nick, Kevin, Jeff kind of floats around in the circle there, but like second, third grade, we've been friends and we know a lot. We've gone through all the journeys of the ups and the downs. I've supported them through different levels of relationships, different levels of friendships, parenting and kids. We've just been there. So if you think about the time you have to spend with somebody's got to be there, but what you do in that time, in fact, heavily matters. So you got to focus on choosing to spend time and allocating it, but opening up while in that moment with them. Because if you don't do that, you pull punches, you don't share certain things. Well, what ends up happening is you have this disconnected kind of relationship where you're there, but you can't open up. If you can't open up, you don't feel connected. And then the distance gets created. So when you're around someone, you're like, I should be close to this person. I should be around, but I feel bogged down. I feel like I can't really express myself because when I do, they don't accept this, or they don't, or there's an anger that comes back, or like there's an argument that takes place. It's like, no, if you can open up and flow, it gets to be much better. Now, the next piece of this is when you have the right friends in your life, the right friends will tell you, I alluded to it a moment ago, they'll tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. Because if you're honest with yourself, there are a lot of things that you might know are kind of like the depths of going on. But when somebody tells it to you, one of two things takes place. Either one, your ego rears up. You don't like to hear this. So what you do is you get into this argument to defend your ego, to defend your current identity, because you don't want anybody to see you sweat, right? And if you have friends that hear, like when they say something to you and you take it in an abrasive manner, well, what happens is they stop telling you things. They stop sharing things with you. They stop opening up, and now you feel that separation create a space, right? But the reality is you need to be in a place where you can actually hear the things that need to be told to you, not just what you want to hear at times. And it is hard. Some people, like they have this desire to do it, and when somebody tells it to them, like they'll embrace it, and some will take some time to embrace it, but they'll eventually go, you know what? I was wrong. You're right. I get this. And they'll bring it in. And then some people will never do it. Some people will just continue to keep beating their head against the wall, and people look at them and go, man, I keep saying this person just won't listen. And then after a while, you start feel that person stop telling you things, stop sharing certain things, stop opening up in certain ways. And it creates this space that doesn't need to be there, but it's there because you didn't want to hear what needed to be heard. And so you have to find people in your life that are not the ones that are like just only celebrating and rah, rah, sis, boom, bop. They're actually telling like, hey, I see this. So you might want to work on, and in that space, consider working on it and not have the ego rear up and go, well, the only reason I'm doing it is because you're telling me to. Well, maybe they're telling you and you should do it, even if they're telling you to do, if that makes sense. So think about this. And these are some, if you think about it, it's kind of some interesting things that I'm talking about friendship wise. Most people would think like, oh, on a friendship conversation for Growth Day, we should be talking about all the chummy stuff. Well, this creates the chummy moments. This creates those non-elephant in the room moments when you're able to talk about these very specific things. And then here's the other piece that has to take place when it comes to a friendship. The friendships that I have, no one keeps score. The best friendships I have, no one's keeping score on who did what and how we did this and how it took place. It's never a scorekeeping situation. In fact, the reality is if I want to get something from this individual, from this human, I got to give. And you got to give without expecting a return. You got to do certain things that show up in a certain way where you're not expecting some return that has to be there. So what it ends up being is I'm giving openly, I'm sharing openly, I'm doing certain things this person needs, this person I care about, this person I love. I'm doing the things without keeping score, without telling them all the things I'm doing. I just do them. And what happens is you find that in that pattern, that process, people eventually get to the role of starting to give you back what you need.
Friendship, tough stuff. Because when we look at all the friends that we've had in our life, they can be life-giving, exhilarating, healing. And then you look at the other side, which is the majority of my history. They can be exhausting and toxic and life-sucking. And I was always like, what's wrong with me? Why do I attract leeches? Why am I attracting such negative people? Like, what am I doing wrong that I can't find the type of friends that I need to grow, to heal, to be a better person? Because everyone's heard the quote, you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. And I fully believe that. So we are so quick to give someone the friend title. Oh, that's my friend. But you met them 10 minutes ago. How do you know they're your friend? What have they done to prove that they deserve a spot in your life? like a valuable spot in your life. We're so quick to label people as friends. There's a spectrum. There is a spectrum. Instead of oscillating between stranger and friend, like there's other words that you can use, other things that you can call people so that you don't feel that weight and that pressure. So the very first type of friend, we're going to call her Jealous Julia. Jealous Julia. Can anyone relate to having a jealous Julia in your life? You just felt jealous energy from them. Jealousy is such a weird emotion because even though it might be it's a bad emotion, but it doesn't make someone a bad person. I could always like recognize, oh my goodness, like their jealousy is so heavy, it makes it hard to want to be around them. When I think of the jealous Julia in my life, I spent 8 years as a travel blogger. So I was solo traveling for most of my 20s. From 22 to 29, I was just traveling around the world, living out of a suitcase, actually 4 very overweight suitcases. And it was an amazing life. I was building my brand as a travel blogger, telling stories of other countries, and also the story of myself, becoming of age and realizing who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in my adulthood. But I remember having other travel bloggers that I would meet and network with and find on my journey. And of course, I'm a naturally giving person. I'm an Enneagram 7. Does anyone know their Enneagram numbers? 7s are enthusiasts. We're scatterbrained, but we're also really fun. We're excitable, we're happy, we're joyful, we're charming, we're kind, we're generous, but there's also some other qualities, but this is not the purpose of this call. We have a lot of great qualities about us. And so it makes it very easy to be friends with us. But my goodness, even though someone wants to be my friend, doesn't mean I have to be theirs. And what I started doing as a travel blogger, meeting all of these people, I was like, okay, well, they want to be my friend. So let me force myself to be their friend. Like, I'm just going to find a way to make this work, even though I felt this really jealous energy constantly. Jealousy of and things that I didn't even think that I had correct. I was still finding my voice. I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. But even to the point, and this woman, the Julia, because we're going to use hypothetical names here, but Julia was a gorgeous person, physically gorgeous. But every time I was around her, I would dress myself down because I recognized, I'm like, oh, I can tell that she feels bad. If more guys are looking at me when we're out together, I know that she starts to get jealous of that. So let me down dress, literally dress like a bum when I'm around her. How toxic is that? How, I look back on that, I'm like, Glow, why? Why did you do that? Sometimes, and many of you have such a big heart that you can recognize the toxicity in someone else and you change yourself to accommodate their jealousy. And that's what I did. And I was suppressing and dimming my light and shutting down parts of me that made me literally glow. And I was like, why am I doing this? It got to the point, it got so bad because, she was also in this industry and also trying to make a name for herself as a travel blogger. She started stealing my content. And now we're getting into intellectual property. I would write a blog post and I would post it, and then she would copy it word for word and change the title. She didn't think, because I wasn't actively reading her blog, she thought I would just never find out. And other bloggers had to literally forward me the link and say, why is this person stealing your words? And I was like, what is going on here? And all this time, I'm letting you in. I'm giving you resources. I'm giving you my energy, giving you my time. The most valuable, non-renewable resource that we all have is time. Money spends once. Time, you can't get that back. Okay. So I'm like, I've given this person so much and this is how they're treating me. Why am I keeping them in my life? And I also recognized that, how do I have this conversation where I call them out on what they're doing and then let them go? And one thing that I was realizing is that sometimes when someone is so toxic for you, you don't have to pinpoint their toxicity in the separation. And so again, and this is what it takes to be a leader, these communication skills. I could have been like, you know what, you are toxic, but that's not what I did. I was like, you know what, in this next season of my life, I'm just focusing on myself. And I just need a little bit of space. And, I'm working on this. And I named a couple projects that I was working on, but I made it about me. Because in life, Not every lesson that people need to learn needs to come from you. Let someone else teach that lesson of like your jealousy and the way it comes off. That's not my lesson to teach. Life will give you that lesson in the way that it's meant to, but you can't be everyone's teacher. And not everyone is ready to learn from you in the way that you want to teach or serve them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this person go, but I'm going to let them go with grace, because at the end of the day, I have to live with my conscience. I don't want to go to bed knowing that like I popped off. Translation went off. Another translation was rude, yelled at someone. I don't want to have that, on my heart, that I just was really just rudely rejected someone. I still want them to feel whole. At the end of the day, they're human and we all have our flaws. So when I, removed them from my life, I made it about me, not about them. And you're going to get to situations in life where there's going to be a difference between removing someone and realigning them. Removal versus realignment. Because most people in your life that are your friends just need some realignment. Maybe they're in your inner circle, top 5, top 10. Anyone remember MySpace? We had the top 8. Like people would lose friendships because they weren't in your top 8. Like that was another period of time. But sometimes someone doesn't need complete removal from your life. Maybe they just need to be realigned and maybe pushed back to your top 50. But this person needed complete removal, because I started to realize that this person isn't adding value to my life. And when I think about friendships and what we look for in friends, obviously some people start friendships out of a selfish pursuit because they're like, you know what, I need more positive people in my life. I know Glo's really positive, so I'm going to be her friend. You know that the number one DM I get, this is actually really interesting. I don't think I've shared this before. The number one DM I get, Glo, I love your energy. I want to be your friend. What do I do with that? And here's the thing, I appreciate and I am so grateful that people can see that energy and that they want to be around me. But one thing that also shows me is that friendship is a selfish pursuit. I see someone's light, I want to just attach. You know who else is attracted to light? Leeches, mosquitoes, bugs. You see my light, but you haven't given me the opportunity to see yours. Or what are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? It has to be this mutual give and take. So those DMs, I always feel a bit awkward because I'm not honestly sure how to respond to that. And I know how I show up in this world. I know the light that I bring in this world. I know how to make people feel better about themselves when they're around me. Like that's a gift. And I love that gift and that discernment of energy and spirit. Like I love that I have that, but doesn't mean everyone deserves or is entitled to that light. Think about that. If you know you have a light and a positive energy about you, just because someone knows you doesn't mean they're entitled to that. You get to decide who you show up as your best self with.
Hello, everyone. It is always an honor. I am fired up to talk about friendship. And I think so many of you might have the same experience as I do, whereas as you get older and as life gets busier and as more things sort of like come into our world, it's easy to have friendships maybe change or move to the back burner, or to feel like, oh, do I have anything in common with my friends anymore? Should I keep my friends from the past? How do I create new friends? I'm so busy, all the things, right? I want to kick off this Growth Day session on friendship with a quote by Cinderella. The greatest risk any of us will take is to be seen as we truly are. And I want to kick off this Growth Day session just by you asking yourself, in your friendships right now, are you truly, fully seen as you truly are? And this is an interesting time for a lot of us where virtual friendships and online and Zoom and all these elements are coming into our life. And they probably won't go away even post-pandemic. And this idea of how do we show up, right, as we truly and fully are, whether it's in this new digital world or it's frankly just seeing a friend for coffee. How do we do that, and does that even matter? And so really, to kick this off, I'm going to dive in first into this idea of your circle of friends. I get this question so often. I get so many, right? I see a lot of you nodding right now. I see Michelle nodding. I see a lot of you. I get this question all the time, which is like, how do I make new friends? And, for a lot of you, I know in the GrowthDay community, all of us want to live our best lives and grow and become the highest, truest expression of ourselves. And yet we also have friends in our lives, a lot of us, that maybe that's not a goal of theirs, but we love them. And so a community like GrowthDay is great because it allows us to kind of bond and to unify over that commonality. But a lot of you have also reached out and asked about, your own circle of friends and how should you treat the people that maybe you grew up with, or maybe you've been friends with for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years. And what do you do when you start to grow apart? And so I want to share my own experience, because what I learned is, I'm so blessed to have friends that have been in my life a long time, long before it cosmetics or any other type of public thing I've done. And some of them have grown with me, and, our lives have nothing in common, but our hearts do. And they continue to be the closest people to me in my life. And then others I love a lot, but whenever we're together, I realize, they haven't learned how to listen or how to care or how to think beyond themselves. And right. And that's okay. But you just kind of realize that when you're around them, maybe, and you share an idea or a hope or a dream or a way you want to give back or your own feelings, you kind of feel your vibration lower. Right. And so one of the things that I started doing several years ago is really just not only evaluating the way I want to show up as a friend and the way I want to pour into other people, but also is the circle around me who I trust, who I share my hopes and dreams with, who I share my ideas with, are they aligned on a heart level, on a soul level? And the first thing I want to talk about, because I think this is what a lot of people get wrong as they look to build their circle. A lot of us have years of experience in elementary school and in high school where groups go together who have things in common, or, someone's in the athletic group, or someone's in the goth group, or someone's in this, right? And we start to think of things that way and say, what do I have in common? Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? And one thing that's been life-changing in my life that I want to kick off this idea of your circle with today is I have made this intentional focus in my life to strip all of those labels off of not just myself, but everyone that I meet, and say, does this person have the kind of heart that I have, does this person want to align with me in terms of our values and all of the things that matter, right? And strip off all the labels. And this has been life-changing for me, because when you look at my closest group of friends, literally, they almost have nothing in common on paper. Literally nothing in common. They don't have the same faith, so they don't pray the same. They don't have the same socioeconomic background, the same upbringing. I mean, it's just like, but literally, when I think about how is it, and this is, by the way, just been really the last 10 to 15 years of my life that I've figured this out, right? Because for a lot of my life, I felt alone or like I didn't belong often. And I had friends, but even when I was with friends, I kind of would just show up trying to make sure everyone liked me, or I was giving everything I could, or, that idea of showing up as your representative, right? Versus your true, full, authentic self. As Cinderella would say, the greatest risk we can take is showing up as we truly are. And I made this intentional decision about 10 to 15 years ago that if I'm going to have a friendship, I want to fully have a real friendship. I want to fully show up as I fully am. The good parts, the bad parts, the quirky parts, the messy parts, like all of it. Because what I know to be true, and now every research study shows this, is that it's impossible to have a true, authentic connection with another human being unless you actually show up fully and authentically, right? When you read a lot of Brene Brown's work, if you're familiar with a lot of her work, she talks about how so many of us, whether it's in friendships or any other type of relationship, we are so conditioned to be people pleasers, or so conditioned to show up as our representative, right? As the person we think we need to be for other people to like us. And she says what happens when you do that is you literally spend your entire life standing outside of who you truly are, hustling for your worthiness over and over and over and over, without ever having true connections. And I made this intentional decision that I want to talk about and encourage everyone to do today, because I continue to challenge myself to do this all the time with friends and with relationships that are really important to me, is to actually truly, fully show up as you fully, truly are, and hold space for your friends to do the same without judgment. And that's been something that has been literally life-changing for me. In the past 10 to 15 years, the group of friends that are my closest friends, the ones that I call, when I have the highest highs and also the lowest lows, right? I think Oprah is famous for saying, you don't just want the friends that ride in the limo with you, you want the friends that ride and catch the bus with you when the limo breaks down, right? Because that's how you know who your true friends are. And for me, I've assembled and been so blessed to just bring in a great group of friends that are so very different from me. Look nothing like me, literally, but they have the same hearts. And so the first thing I just want to encourage everyone to just think about, because I think we get past high school and then we're in our 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and we forget that we do this, but deeply rooted in us, we often still have labels that are on ourselves and on other people. And when we remove those and say, I want to manifest another incredible friend in my life. Here's what I'm looking for in them. And it's soul level stuff, right? You never know where they're going to come from, or what they look like, or what their story is. And in doing this so intentionally, I've built the strongest friendships in my life.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.